Good afternoon, and please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, BJ. And Frank, if you would mind joining us up here and leading us in our invocation, please.
Let us pray. The gift of Rotary in this room is evident, with friends all about us, with special gifts to share. Be with us as we move about in our daily lives, always keeping in mind the special talents we have. Let us be fair and kind to those in our paths today. Let us focus on the objects of Rotary and implement them with your help. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Frank. All right. Well, welcome to Catalina Rotary. It's great to see everybody. We will get started with our usual protocol by asking if there are any visiting Rotarians that are joining us. And I think I know the answer to that one because sure thing.
Good afternoon. Whoa. Wow, this is a loud mouth. Mike. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon. My name is Cindy Gresser. I am here with you today from the Rotary Club of Prescott. I am a two-time past president there and recently, 8 months ago, moved to Tucson to be closer to my family after lots of life changes up in the Prescott area. Currently, I'm assisting the Pima Animal Care Center, and I want to let you all know that on April 23rd on 4th Avenue, there's going to be a pet parade, and it's going to be really cute. Starting at 8 a.m. in the morning, bring your pets out, walk in the parade. If you want to get a t-shirt and a scarf, you got to raise some money. We'd like you to raise some money. There's a good chance there's going to be an underwriter there. And we'll let you walk in the parade no matter what. But anyway, come on out on the 23rd for the pet parade, Pima Animal Care Center. Any money raised goes directly to save more cats and dogs. So thank you very much. Thank you for letting me be here and say a few words about this.
Oh, thank you for joining us. All right. And I believe we also have some guests. Michael.
Hi, everyone. This is I'd like to introduce Jerry, a former Rotarian from Florida. He'll tell you a little bit about himself, and he is a free agent.
All right.
So, everybody.
Thanks, Michael. Michael was our realtor. We just moved here from Rockledge, Florida. Rockledge Rotary was my Rotary club for 25 years. I'm a past president of the club. I started the Interact Club there. And yeah, a longtime Rotarian. I'm looking for a club. So Michael mentioned your club to me, and I'm here to check it out.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Jerry. All right. So let me see. We have a couple of announcements, like I've been mentioning for the last few weeks. June 25th and 26th. That's Saturday and Sunday in June. It is our own esteemed fellow Rotarian here, Catalina Rotarian, Anita McDonald. She is going to be installed as the district governor. So if you can make that to support her, that would be great. Let me see here. Bobby D. Oh, sorry. That is at That's right. Marriott at University, Joan. And it's 65 for the weekend or 45. Did it go up? Oh, geez. I guess. 20. Where's the mic?
Hi there. Anita's installation is 25 for the reception on Saturday, 45 for the brunch and the installation itself on Sunday. And because we have so many PDGs in this club, I'll give you a reminder that there's And if you haven't seen the email, it'll be coming out to you again. There is a College of Governors on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. So it's
So stay
all
tuned
at
for
the
that.
Marriott at the university. It's going to be wonderful, and Anita will be there.
We hope. Awesome. Thank you, Andy, for the update there. So if it's gone up, so plan on about $300 by the time June comes around, but it's still worth the support for Anita. So, Bobby D, we have any last updates on the road cleanup?
So tomorrow at 8 o'clock at the 7-Eleven at the corner of Skyline and Swan, we will be doing our road cleanup. So we've had a few people drop out because of conflicts. So if you can join us, should be nice. It's fairly quick work. And then we're going to get together at Finney's Landing for a brunch following. So 8 o'clock tomorrow at the 7-Eleven at Swan and Skyline.
Awesome. Any questions? It's pretty fun, quick work. And afterwards, there's Finney's Landing, get together, outdoor patio, pretty nice digs there. So well worth it if you can make it. So hopefully get a good crowd there. This week I had a call from Jeannie Morgan. She leads up the vocational Rotary Vocational Fund. And Sharon, I know that you've helped out a few times with interviewing applicants. So how this generally works, and correct me if I'm wrong. So the district has a vocational fund where we support folks that are going into certain courses, and typically like older candidates, I guess I would say, 20s, 30s, 40s even. And so we had another candidate that we interviewed, and happy to report that they were accepted. And so we're supporting them. But the kind of that same group, it's a little bit of a subgroup within that organization. There is a project that they're looking to start. So there's a gentleman, Glenn Garrett. I don't know if many of you know him. He's from the old Pueblo Rotary Club. So he's looking to work with Eller College on a program that would allow students within the college to do, it's essentially like a study of sorts. And so they're looking for people in the district that would be willing to volunteer to work with these kids. It's going to be about an hour a week for 8 weeks. And it's essentially just focused on kind of vocational activities, what we can do. So it's kind of getting off the ground right now. So please keep that in mind if that's something you'd be interested in. It's a volunteer 1 week, 1 hour a week kind of thing, done over Zoom. I think can even be done that way. So if you have any interest in that, please let me know, and I'll let you know more details as I find out about it. So I got a few head shakes here from the BJ. Is that all right? Great. Cool. All right. Well, any other announcements? All right. Well, it depends on what the question is, Joan. I'm already leery. Go right ahead. I don't think there's formally a question section in the
Make it
the order
new
of
business,
events.
whatever. I'm thinking in terms of trying to go to convention in Houston.
Uh-huh.
I've only done this a couple of times. I was wondering if anybody knows or has a connection with the RV group. Merle. Okay. Oh, okay. And will they? I wasn't here then. Well, I'll connect with you, and I'm thinking of driving my RV.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see where you're going with this now. Okay,
Yeah.
great. See what happens when you come in person, Joan? All these things line up for you. You're going to find a chauffeur if you keep coming.
To connect with Rotary International, and I was reading the magazine, but I couldn't find any.
Gotcha. All right. Well, sounds like Merle can link you up there. So awesome. Any other announcements / questions? No? All right, great. Well, then I'm really excited this week. Maria Elena and her committee always do a great job on getting us good speakers, and this week is no exception. And so I'm going to call on Bobby D. If we can welcome Bobby D to introduce our speaker today.
Well, this is a special opportunity. This is a special opportunity for me, having worked with Tim for the better part of 10 years. But I thought I'd give you a little background on what I've learned about Tim over those years. Tim is that creature called the native Tucsonan to start with. He was born here, I believe, spent his Wonder Bread years in the Indian Ridge neighborhood. And you folks who know Tucson know where that is. He went to the Fort Lowell School. He went to Townsend Middle School, both of which are gone now because of development. He is a Sabercat, went to Sabino High School. And when he graduated from Sabino, he went off to Southern Colorado and went to Colorado College, a small liberal arts school that's very high quality. And then the public domain, there's not a lot of information about Tim for a couple of years. He spent a couple of years or 1 or 2 in New Mexico, and not in hiding, but just, I only could pick up snippets, straw bale house, living off the land, cohabitation, stuff like that, Milagro bean field type stuff. But eventually he did return to Southern Arizona and to Tucson and got into our business, which is the commercial real estate business. And he's an industrial specialist. And he started out, I believe, at Grubb & Ellis, which no longer exists. And he started with Grubb & Ellis, and then in around the year 2000, he got a job at his current employer, which is CBRE. And those initials you see it's called Big Green now, but Coldwell Banker is kind of the CB, and the RE is Richard Ellis, which was a big British consultancy. And so it's a worldwide publicly held corporation with offices almost everywhere. So just a little bit, some of you who've been in Tucson may remember his father. William Healy was a very well-regarded defense attorney in Tucson, involved in some pretty high-profile cases. And I'm sure Pat Egbert, if he were here, would remember his dad. He's married to Stephanie Healy. Stephanie was an executive vice president at SALC, and is currently in sort of the public outreach for Cox Communications. And when Stephanie comes to town, people are happy because she's usually spreading some Cox Communications largesse out there in the community. They have 2 beautiful children, Ella, who's right out our back door at University High School. She's a junior. And Hudson, or Hud, who is going to be graduating. He's an 8th grader at St. Michael's. A little bit about Tim's practice, and I'll shut up soon, I promise. He's an industrial broker. And what is that? It's a pretty big umbrella. And just to give you a sense of kind of his stock in trade, it's warehouse distribution space, it's manufacturing, it's back office space, it's R&D space, it's lab space, it's call centers, it's contractor yards, it's industrially zoned land. And then some of the sort of smaller business people are in this small bay multi-tenant space that you see where you have office and warehouse with a roll-up door in the back, or if you're lucky, a loading dock. A couple of his sort of more visible listings are the Biopark at the U of A down at 36th and Keno, where he's working on their first spec building, and Innovation Park up in Oro Valley. So he tends to see a lot of the big requirements that come looking in Tucson because of those big listings. He's a first vice president at CBRE and a good friend, and I ask you to give a warm welcome to Tim Healy.
So that was the first half of my speech. Thanks, Ben. So anyways, so obviously I'm here to talk about the industrial real estate market. And it is, if go to the next slide there, Pablo. Thanks. So what is the state of the industrial market right now? And so before I get into that, what I thought I'd do for today was break this up into two sections. First, I'm going to talk about the broad stroke overviews of the industrial market. And then I'm going to talk about what we're seeing here in Southern Arizona. So as far as the broad strokes go, the industrial market's doing great. It's been record setting for us over the last couple of years since 2020, end of 2019. I mean, by record setting, I mean in every metric. We're selling more buildings. We're selling buildings for higher prices. We're doing more loans and lending. There's a absorption rate is higher than it's ever been. The rental rate growth is higher than it's ever been. In some communities, just to give you some perspective, industrial land in Tucson historically has been in that $2 to $3 a foot range. In LA County right now, it's $180 a foot. In Inland Empire, it's $120 to $130 a foot. That's more than what an office building would sell for here in Tucson. And we're just talking about land. So the industrial market, is really on fire. And as a result of that, we're seeing Wall Street show up in a big way. We've had this, influx of capital into the market like we really haven't experienced before. And so you have pension funds and you have these Wall Street funds that are investing in real estate. You have, these traditional Wall Street companies like KKR and Blackstone, which typically would, buy into companies, are investing in real estate, and I have huge industrial portfolios now. So what happened? Why is this happening? What's interesting about the why is COVID. COVID showed up. We were in a recovery period after the Great Recession, and all facets of commercial real estate were recovering and doing well. And then COVID showed up, and it kind of changed the industrial market and added, COVID in a strange way added a lot of gas to the flame. So what actually happened is I kind of think about March in 2019, and we had a box show up at our front door, and we'd put gloves on and we'd take it out in the backyard and let it bake in the sun. I don't know if you guys remember that. We didn't know how COVID was being transmitted, but a couple of months in, retailers realized that the American consumer was still buying products, but they were sort of shifting from buying stuff in person to buying stuff online. And all the big retailers were, because of Amazon, Amazon really changed the landscape and how we buy products. But Lowe's, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, all of those guys, COVID, they already had an online, presence, and were already allocating dollars to build that out, that infrastructure out. COVID accelerated that. And so the industrial market was a huge beneficiary of that, because for that infrastructure, you need industrial land, you need industrial buildings. So, when you buy those goods, you look at a Home Depot store, you go into a Home Depot store, it's really just a warehouse that you go into. So I think what's happened is some of these retailers that in, 2018, 2019 in their long range plans, maybe they were going to open 100 stores, and I'm making up numbers here, but 100 stores in 2021. Maybe now they're saying we're going to open 10. We're going to take all that capital that we were going to spend on the other 90, and we're going to use it to build out our infrastructure for online fulfillment. So, that's one, so one big reason industrial has changed or accelerated is because the American consumer changed their habits. But another really interesting thing is that because of COVID, our manufacturing base is now expanding. In large part, that was due to China. China just closed these factories down, and they severed all their supply chains, which is, you guys have been reading about that in the news. So that's created a big problem. So I think manufacturers that would have, built out a manufacturing facility in Asia are going to do it now in the US. So, I mean, that's kind of, if you go ahead and advance, that's kind of the overview. So now let's talk about Southern Arizona. We got, when I'd like to talk about Southern Arizona, I like to talk about Tucson and Casa Grande. And the story in Tucson is new construction. So if you go to the next slide, what the story here is, well, this shows you where industrial lives in Tucson. So industrial lives in 3 areas, but the biggest area by far is the airport area. And that's where probably about 60% of our industrial base is. The other areas are kind of areas that will see future growth. So go to the next slide. So this, the amazing thing about this is this shows you how much new construction we have. So in Tucson, as a point of fact, we have about 40 million square feet. However, over the next couple of years, we're going to see 5 to 6 million square feet of new industrial product built. And if you look at this slide, you can see a lot of it is in the airport area, but we're also starting to see some of it go kind of into the outskirts. And what's really interesting about this 5 to 6 million square feet, most of these participants in this new construction are brand new to town. So if you look at on the right side, those active developers, none of those developers were here 5 years ago. And of those developers, 6 of them don't even have a building up right now. So they have land tied up. They're in the process of permitting or in the process of planning. And then you do have one developer on there that does have some product here in town, but they've only been here for about 5 years. So the local guys that have traditionally built in our market are just kind of on the sidelines right now. And that's in large part from what I said before. You've had this huge influx of capital, and this capital is, I'm not going to say it's risk adverse, but it doesn't look at deals maybe the same way our local developers did, and our local banks, and they're just they're willing to take on a little more risk. So those developers that you see that are on that list are they're building these buildings speculatively. They don't have a tenant or a company that they're building these buildings for. They're just building them and hoping somebody shows up and leases the space. So that's probably over half of that 5 to 6 million square feet. But the other huge driver to this industrial market has been Amazon. Amazon by far in the US right now is the most active builder of industrial warehouse products. Now they're not building it all. They own some of their real estate, but the majority of their real estate is leased to them. So they have developers all over the country that are building these buildings out for them. And to think about the fact that Amazon had no space in our market 5 years ago, and by the end of 2023, they'll have about 3 million square feet. Another thing that I would say is, if you look at the growth that we're seeing right now, 5 to 6 million square feet, that's about 15% of our total base. If you were to play this out and assume that we would continue on this trend, I'm not saying we are, but if you did, we would double our inventory in 10 years. And think about that, 40 million square foot base took 75 years to build. So, this just speaks to what I said earlier about the overall market. So let's go ahead and move forward to Casa Grande. Okay, so Casa Grande, this is a really interesting story to me. I find this fascinating. So Casa Grande is a city of about 60,000 people. And this first map, again, this is like the Tucson map. It shows you where industrial lives in Casa Grande. You would think that there would be a lot of industrial down at the intersection of I-10 and I-8 because of the confluence of those two freeways. But 95% of the industrial activity in Casa Grande is along Thornton Road. I don't know how many of you guys have been up to Casa Grande, but Thornton Road going from Interstate 8 to the Maricopa Highway is just chock full of companies. And can you guys hear me okay? Or okay. write that. Okay, is that better? Okay, so Thornton Road, it going, a half mile in either direction, has seen a tremendous amount of activity. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see who's there. So lots of good stories in this. You guys have all probably heard about Lucid. So Lucid is an EV manufacturer. Casa Grande's got kind of a nice little EV ecosystem. Nikola, which you see up there, they just opened a factory of about 500,000 feet in Coolidge, about 20 minutes east of Casa Grande. Lucid built 800,000 square feet in Casa Grande. They're making cars right now. If you buy a Lucid, it's coming from that factory. They are under construction with 2.7 million square feet of expansion. So you put that together, that's 3.5 million square feet. Our largest industrial facility in Tucson is 2 million square feet, the UA Tech Park, which was built by IBM in 1979. So if you took that UA Tech Park and the Target Fulfillment Center across the street and put them together, you'd be at a little under 3 million square feet. And you've got a facility in Casa Grande, again, 60,000 people, 3.5 million feet. So some other great stories. Kohler, you guys familiar with Kohler? So Kohler makes bathroom fixtures. They are opening a factory out of Wisconsin, based out of Wisconsin. They're under construction right now, just started, 1 million square feet. They're going to build fixtures. It's a line of fixtures they're building for the home builders that they sell directly to the home builders. You've got this is a really interesting story. So you have 3 suppliers that are moving into Casa Grande. One of them is called Changchun. I don't know who the others are. Changchun is from Taiwan. It's a chemical company. And earlier in this speech, when I talked about manufacturing moving back to the US, really the main reason is these supply chains getting cut right and manufacturers thinking they need to be closer to the consumer to alleviate some of that. But another interesting thing that's occurred, there's a national security issue that, our relations with China might not be that great over the coming years. And if we have all of our manufacturing over in China, this would include parts maybe for military vehicles or parts for your iPhone, things that we just need, not even for the military, but to conduct life in commerce in the US, which could be looked at as a national security issue. As a result of that, I know I'm going off tangent here, but this is kind of cool. As a result of that, there's been a huge, there's 2 huge projects in Phoenix right now, chip factories that are being built. One of them is in Anthem, north of Phoenix, and it's TSMC, which stands for Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Corp. They are building a factory that is going to cost $12 billion. $12 billion. Intel is doing an expansion in Chandler, Arizona, of the current plant, but they're building a new chip factory to the tune of $20 billion. So $32 billion of capital investment in the Phoenix market. And when you put that in perspective, Cardinal football stadium probably in today's dollars would cost about $600 million. So you're looking at 53 NFL football stadiums, like the Cardinals one, maybe not like SoFi, being built at one time in your market. I mean, that's just an unbelievable amount of money flowing into the Phoenix market. Casa Grande is benefiting from that because some of those suppliers for the TSMC plant are going to locate in Casa Grande. So that'll, you can see up next to Kohler, I think, where the Changchun warehouse is going to go. But just look at that. Tractor Supply, 650,000 square feet, regional distribution center in Casa Grande. Walmart has 1.5 million square feet of cold storage distribution. Again, Casa Grande, so cold storage. So, which is an expensive building to build. And so those aren't serving Casa Grande. Those warehouses are serving the southwestern U.S. So, anyways, I think that's kind of it for me. If you guys have any questions, go ahead. Do we have time for that? If not, that's fine.
And I'm sure there's going to be a few questions here. I'll start things off with Tony.
So Tim, is this on? Tim, the question I have is residential real estate, because all of this stuff that's being built is going to bring a whole lot of jobs and pretty high paying employees who are going to want pretty nice houses. And as we all know, for the last 2 years, there's no real estate supply. There's tons of demand, but there's no supply. That's kind of, you know, the next shoe that's got to fall. What's going on there in order to make all this viable?
Maybe I'd throw that question over here. You mean as far as how are we going to get some home lots delivered to the public? So, I mean, I can, and I know Jimmy's going to have some insight on this because I think he lends to the home builders. I can't speak as well to the home market, but I can tell you that, the home builders are trying to get as many lots out there as they can so that they can build. But as far as where it's coming from, I'll say from Casa Grande, this will be the end of my answer for this. In Casa Grande, 60,000 people can't support that corporate economic development activity. So and companies don't just end up there by accident. So the reason they end up there is because there's utility infrastructure. This speaks a little bit to what you're saying. There has to be utility infrastructure and roads and things like that. Casa Grande has a really robust electrical supply grid, maybe more so than Tucson. But the labor for Casa Grande is going to come from places like Maricopa. And I think Maricopa is probably the second fastest growing community in Arizona after Buckeye. So, but I know that's not a direct answer, but maybe these guys. Jimmy?
No, well, I would just say, Tony, that there's definitely a huge demand. So I just kind of moved over into our home builder group, and they're going crazy. But it's hard to keep up both with prices and with labor. So the lots are getting developed, they're out there. But we're still competing because Tucson anyway, we're still competing with people moving here for other reasons to retire. And so it's tough. So I had the same question of how many people are in Casa Grande that can put this all to work. I mean, that's great. You have the square feet, you have the infrastructure, but then where are the people coming from? And I guess we're going to be driving. Andy, what's your question?
So at the risk of being the Lorax, I'd like to speak for the truffle trees. All of these factories are going to need an awful lot of water. And I'm presuming that they all did their homework and they're all looking at a payback over 10, 15, 20 years. And we don't know what water we're going to have in the Colorado River in 20 years. So what do they know that we don't know?
Well, that might be above my pay grade, but I will say this. Other than the semiconductor plants that I mentioned, which are huge water users, those warehouses are going to use a lot less water than a subdivision would, just because, there aren't a lot of people in those warehouses. Another thing I would mention about manufacturing is it's becoming a lot more automated. So there's certain processes that use a lot of water just by nature of what they are producing. But, they're just, those buildings aren't going to have as many people in them as they used to.
All right, Joe?
I'm curious about that huge, it intended to be a retail center that was right at the 10 and 8, the junction there. And every time I go by that, I look at that and wonder what's ever going to happen to that. Plus, I live walking distance from the Foothill Mall, which is a huge no man's land now. Is there any thought about converting those properties to other use?
So, not that you want to go back to the slide, but that slide of Casa Grande that shows those industrial neighborhoods, The big building that's in that slide that's at that confluence is a warehouse building that was built in 2008 by a company called Tremolo Crow. That's full. Lucid and some other companies are in there. The project that I think you're talking about was the Phoenix Mart. I don't know if you can see that from the freeway, but that is a disaster. Oh, okay. I don't know if it's visible from the freeway or not. Maybe somebody knows here. It is. Oh, well, there's an, okay, so there's two things there. So there's two debacles there. So the one that you see right on the freeway, that outlet mall has been there for a long time. And, you know, obviously it's fallen into disrepair and they're trying to sell it. And I don't know the background on that. Then there was a kind of a project in Casa Grande that got a lot of media, which was the Phoenix Mart. And it was built with Chinese money. And it was the same thing that happened in Green Valley with the hospital. There was a financing mechanism that was used here in this country for a while where Chinese citizens, if they wrote a big enough check, they could invest money into the U.S. and maybe get some sort of visa status. I don't recall, but that both of those projects failed because that financing, I think the Green Valley Hospital may have sold or something. I don't know. I mean, it's still operating. It's just, you know, had some issues, but.
I'm coming. While I get there, what's a square foot? What's the price for land in Casa Grande compared to Tucson?
Casa Grande is still pretty low, although it's going up pretty quickly. And that's all farmland. So it's all these families that have owned these farms, and not forever. Some of them, you know, sold in 2008 and then came back and bought their land back, you know, because of the financial crisis. But they're very, you know, some of those farmers are really smart real estate people. I mean, farming is something they do to make money, but real estate's also something they do to make money. But the land values in Casa Grande are probably $2 to $3 a foot. In Tucson, they're probably in the $5 to $6 a foot range now, and in Phoenix, $20.
Hey, are there any similarities between like the Reno Sparks, data center, commercial, industrial, and with what's going on right now in Arizona? Because it seemed like 3 years ago, like Reno Sparks was, they're moving all the data centers and stuff out of California and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Reno other than, Tesla being there, and that really has had a huge impact. And I know, so Reno has become a distribution. So Reno is kind of like West Phoenix. West Phoenix has a huge growing distribution network to serve the largest consumer market in the world, which is Southern California. Reno is kind of like that for Northern California. But beyond that, I don't know. And data centers, by the way, that you bring up an interesting point. Phoenix has seen some good data center activity. Tucson, our utility rates are too high. We're about twice what the utility rates would need to be to get a data center down here, which is unfortunate because data centers don't necessarily employ a lot of people, but it's a good asset to have in the community.
So you had, we were just talking about kind of the more dilapidated properties up there in Casa Grande, and Tucson being what it is, we have our own fair share of it. And this was a few years ago, but there was a lot of, before the spec properties started popping up for the industry, for industrial properties. So do you see any progress? And I call progress getting rid of them or updating them for all the stale inventory that we have in Tucson. So like old factories, I think Lisa Frank was a kind of an infamous one here in town. So just in terms of outdated inventory, I guess, in the industrial world here in Tucson, any updates there?
Well, my comment to that, Jimmy, would be a great question because we're really seeing that happen in other markets where the land values are higher. Tucson, we haven't really seen a lot of redevelopment of older sites simply just because it doesn't make sense. You can go buy land down the street and you don't have the cost of demo, and the seller's probably going to want something for the buildings. So, there are a bunch of properties that sorely need to be redeveloped, but we just haven't seen that happen here yet.
Could you just possibly put that last slide up of Amazon? Because that's some pretty stunning information. On the right-hand side of that, it just.
I see.
Yeah.
The total industrial in China is bigger than the US, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but
But just the amount of space that Amazon occupies around the world, 345 million square feet, 400,000 drivers, 40,000 semi-trucks, 70 airplanes. I mean, it's just astounding.
I mean, they're unbelievable in what they've done, but I mean, this is a pretty amazing number here. There's one industrial investment company that has almost 1 billion square feet. Yeah, this slide, but yeah, Amazon has been an unbelievable driver to our market. And when we have our industrial calls once a month, they're the only other, and it's not a company, but 3PLs, which are the logistics companies, are the only other sort of companies that come close to occupying the same or doing the amount of transactions that they're doing.
Tim, I'm new to Tucson, but can you speak on the spec operations that are being built out there? It's Field of Dreams, or could it be overbuilt? I mean, what's your opinion on those?
Yeah, can you go back to that Tucson slide, the second Tucson slide, and I'll step up. Is this okay if I walk over here? I know the Zoom people. Okay. One more back. Yeah, so this probably doesn't even merit a lot. I mean, it's, but there's not that much going on there. This is Northwest Tucson. I'm sorry, I'm not used to using a microphone. So Northwest Tucson. So this, to answer your question, what's going on up there is, if you look at the left side down there, Flint Development, Amazon, Roche, Southwest Gas, those are all going in at the corner of Tangerine and I-10. And so that intersection by the end of 2023, assuming things continue to go the way they're going to go, is going to have over 3 million square feet of new development. So Roche is building a 60,000 square foot facility next to their current building. And across the street, Amazon is looking at building 1 million square feet. North of that is a developer that's building spec space to the tune of about 1.75 million. Southwest Gas is building a regional training and admin center, kind of similar to what they have down at Palo Verde and I-10. You know, but to go on to spec, so the other, so most of the spec construction is occurring down, if you see down by the airport, just to the right of the airport, you've got a couple of developers down there that I think all, when it's all said and done, maybe the end of 2023. So this is a time capsule, right? So this is just really 2022 and 2023. This doesn't include the Amazon building that was built at Colbin, Valencia. So this is just new construction like this year and stuff that's planned or under construction. So that of that 5 to 6 million square feet that I mentioned, I would say that probably about 4 million of it's spec. The demand, the developers, although I said you're going to pray that they fill those buildings up, they're building them without tenants. They have, you know, models showing that there's enough demand to support that development. So I guess the answer to your question is, it's a field of dreams if you guys stop buying stuff. If the American consumer slows down their purchasing habits, yeah, we're going to have some projects that are either not going to get filled or going to stall. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Tim, thank you very much. A couple of quick questions. What is the city of Tucson doing to bring in more business? And my second question is, the new I-11, how's that going to impact growth here?
Okay, so first question is, here's kind of one of my comments. I mean, cities are really important as far as economic development goes because they can do a lot of things to make businesses want to do business here. One of the things that we do need is we need, Tucson Electric Power and our utility infrastructure to become more robust, and that investment is a little slower here than it is in Phoenix and Casa Grande, unfortunately. And so, I would say it's not just the city of Tucson, but it's all the others, some of the other stakeholders that really need to step up and get a little more aggressive. And then what was the second question? Interstate 11. I can't really tell you on that. I mean, I know, I read the same thing you read in the paper. Yeah.
I think we're all square. Tim, thank you so much. Let's give Tim a round of applause.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of interesting stuff going on. And yeah, like Tim mentioned, we keep buying and keep spending. So all those things are good for the economy. One thing that I would just add, and I just happened to read it the other day, I think in the fourth quarter of last year, credit card balances jumped up the most they've ever done in the 22 some odd years they've been tracking it. And it was like $55 billion that it jumped up just in one quarter. I don't think the first quarter number has come out yet, but yeah, spend, I guess. That never ends badly. So Tim, one thing I wanted to say that Rotary International, worldwide organization, and kind of our big thing that we have committed ourselves to as Rotarians is the eradication of polio. And so just as an appreciation or a token of appreciation for you coming here, we're going to donate from our foundation enough to vaccinate 25 more children against polio. There's still a few areas in the world where it's still not eradicated, so we're just trying to get there as quickly as we can. And just thank you for joining us, and in your honor, we'll try to keep that mission going. So thank you again for joining us, and really appreciate all the good information. It's nice to see. These are good problems to have, right? Where the people going to live, and it's a whole lot better than trying to figure out, what kind of thing do we have to put on a billboard to keep people, stopping in Tucson or something like that on the opposite side of the spectrum there. So thank you for being a part of that. All right. So who's it going to be? Is it Bobby D or Pablo? Who's all right. Now I'm not going to allow you to come up here unless you have news that's a little bit different as to who pulled the card. All right, he's coming. There's hope.
Hello? Oh, hello? Could you hear me? Good. I believe we're up to, Bobby D, did you see like 2,300? 2,331 cards left. Still a lot, but it could be all ending today. So let's just get this over with. BJ, come on. Have you pull it, BJ? I'm done with you, man. We have a good thing going. Don't ruin our party. Here we go. Come on. All right, so good card, BJ. Good card. We got plenty of cards to go. Plenty of money for you guys to participate. So just do a little bit more gambling, get that pot up, and so Maria Elena could win her huge win. And that's what we're all gunning for. All right, till next week.
All right, thank you, Pablo. My deepest sympathies, BJ. All right, so today we have a special guest. We're gonna have a sergeant I don't know if we've had for a while. I know you've led the meetings for some times, but if you can all help me welcome Andy to be our sergeant today.
Yeah, I would much rather be pulling the Queen of Hearts, but I don't know what happened. I bought the tickets, and like it says out there on the sign, you gotta be in it to win it. So please go online, spend a lot. You can do it, a little bit every day. You can spend a lot every day, And maybe I'll still get my ticket pulled next week. Okay, I went through some of the critical information and realized that last week they sort of nailed just about everybody for birthdays and anniversaries and all the things that are just the easy pickings. But one of the people last week made a big deal out of the fact that her birthday was really in this Rotary Week, not in last Rotary Week. And so Joan, oh, by golly. You know who's getting the bill now?
In the spirit of not revealing my true age and this leg up thing that you guys keep trying to explain to me, I'm doing a leg up to TRF in honor of my birth.
Hooray! Okay. So the easy pickings out there, if you don't have a pin on, if you decided this week it wasn't important, find your wallet, because you can certainly find $1 in there and ante up. And I was hoping to make a big deal this week because we're really working on trying to come up with new ideas for the sergeant and everything. And I really wanted to focus on Tartan Day, but that was Monday, and that seems so long ago. And nobody came dressed in their kilt or their plaid today. So I thought I'd throw out there, and this is basically, if you can answer the question, I'll put in some money. How's that? I'm doing my best Tom Robertson impression or Irv Minda's impression up here. So what is Tartan Day? Anybody know? Boy. Well, this is a national holiday. It was brought to us in 1998 by Senator Trent Lott, who actually reached back and grabbed it out of Canada. It's on April 6th, and it is indeed the Scottish Tartan National Day. But does anybody know why they picked April 6th? Now, if you don't know, this is actually going to be a history lesson today. And this will be something that you can use this weekend at cocktail parties, bar mitzvahs, weddings, anything where you need to come up with a little light conversation. Yes, actually, ding, 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 ding. Pat, I'll give you, it goes back to the treaty of the letter of Arboroath in 1320, which Trent Lott cites as one of the forerunners documents for the Declaration of Independence. It was actually a letter written to Pope John the 22nd, and it was stating that the Scots were independent people, were fiercely independent people, and were going to remain independent people, and would he please not recognize England's claim on Scotland. And it worked out pretty well for a while, and then it didn't. So, all right, let's bring this a little newer. Does anybody know what happened 157 years ago today? I can give you the date. I was near there, but no. Okay, let's see now. The latest thing that's been in the news, obviously, have been wars. Wars have been in the news for, sadly, too many years. But on this date, 157 years ago, bring out your computers, figure out. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm going to say either Civil War ended or Lincoln got us.
Absolutely, Civil War ended at Appomattox on this day. That was 157 years ago. That was in the South. Something else happened in the South only 48 years ago today. has nothing to do with a war, but has everything to do with this week in history. And you, of all people coming from that part of the world, should be very familiar with this happening 48 years ago. That would have been 1974. On this date, let's talk about national pastimes. Oh, heavens no. Somebody broke somebody's record on this. There you go. Hank Aaron's 715th home run was in 1974 on this day. The next year on this day, something equally momentous happened in baseball. 1975, April 8th. Going once, going twice. Frank Robinson became the first Black manager of a major league team on this day in 1975. Clearly the 70s, you guys were not thinking, you're probably thinking more of the 30s. So in 1935, what happened on this date? Well, of course you all remember this. It's the anniversary of the Works Progress Administration. It was on this day in 1935, it was authorized by Congress. And to be honest, you take a look at what the WPA has done around the country, there's an awful lot of good that was done because of that. So, are there any happy bucks? Paul.
I got some happy bucks. I now have an alma mater that has the most wins in basketball history. Took over from Kentucky, and they won on last Monday. It was a little nerve-wracking, but here's a leg up for that.
Yeah. What was that score at halftime? What was that score at halftime? Talking of nerve-wracking. 40-25. Yikes. Merle.
This will be my last in person until December, that I'm going to be heading back towards Eastern Iowa, starting Thursday.
We wish you good planting and a good crop this year.
Okay, I have a sad find because my Yukon Husky women lost, but I'm happy that they beat Stanford because I can't stand their coach. And then I also want to congratulate Kirk and Anita for beating my great partner in bocce. For two people who never played bocce before, I think we did pretty well.
BJ.
The happy buck, I'm gonna head up to Vegas this next week with my 3 older boys to see my brother and his family. They were gonna go to the Grand Canyon, but decided not to. So we're gonna hang out with them in Vegas instead.
Oh, you hope you bring a whole lot of happy bucks back from that trip. Anybody else out there? All right. Well, Jimmy, President Jimmy, back to you.
Thank you, Andy. Just FYI, some of us weren't around in the 70s, so just a little reference there. All right, well, I think we are approaching the conclusion of our meeting, so I want to just take a quick moment to say thank you so much again for joining us today, Tim, for speaking to us and getting us caught up on the world of the industrial real estate market here in Tucson, so thank you so much. And then Jerry, you know, you too can join in our festivities here and winning some money. So what a better way to start off, you know, your Tucson citizenship than just maybe joining a Rotary club that has a pretty good pool of funds here, just waiting for you to come back. So thanks so much for joining us, though, and hopefully we'll see you again. And all the best to you and getting settled. And yeah, well, welcome to Tucson. Thanks. And of course, thank you to Bob and Pablo for leading us today and for joining, making it accessible to Zoom. And I'm sure Merle will be hopefully hitting us up on that soon. So Merle, yeah, happy trails to you, and hopefully we'll see you soon, and all the best out to you in Iowa. So safe travels. So I think that's all we've got for today. So unless there's anything else for the good of the cause, I'd ask you to join me in standing up and reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First. Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks, everybody.